When people come up to the shrine, and it's called the Shrine of Remembrance, people who don't know the history of Australia in wartime, remembering what? What is there to remember? 1934, when I was at school, it was the centenary of Melbourne, and that was the year the shrine was opened. So that was the first time I saw the shrine. My father had been in the First World War. He'd been aide-de-camp to General Birdwood on Gallipoli. You know, I was interested in it through him, and then on several other occasions I came up here with him. I didn't have any other involvement until 1951. They set up a committee to consider what kind of a memorial there should be for the people who served from Victoria in the Second World War. The Governor of the day, Sir Dallas Brooks, and the Lord Mayor of the day called a meeting, and I was invited to join this committee. My next involvement with the shrine came when the chairman of the day, who was Sir Edmund Herring, and the vice deputy chairman, Colonel Kemsley, invited me to become a trustee. I felt that was quite an honour because I was the first only Second World War person to be appointed. Trustees were the guardians of the shrine. When we were appointed, we ran the shrine. All we had for administrative purposes was a part-time employee who was lent to us by the City of Melbourne. Colonel Kemsley was the man who really ran the shrine. He had a secretary and a private office, and he did everything. He was amazing. He became chairman eventually, and when he retired as chairman, that was when I became chairman. Soon after, I felt that it was about time we thought about what could be done with the shrine to make it more user-friendly and to make it less sombre. So we formed a committee for the future. The first thing we did was to look at the undercroft of the shrine. The undercroft is everything below the ground floor. We went down and had a look at it, and it was just a mass of rubble. And we thought at the time, this is a wonderful space that should be used. We appointed an honorary architect, Rod MacDonald, and he inspected the area and came up and said, well, the space is magnificent, it can be used, but there's two problems. One is that the supports of the shrine have got concrete cancer, and secondly, the surrounds need replacing. So, okay, Rod, that's fine. What's this going to cost? He came up with a price of $3 million. Well, we have no funds, of course. Joan Kerner was the Premier at the time, and she was very sympathetic. And she said, well, Peter, you know, things are tough. And I said, yes, Premier. But I'll give you $1.5 million if you raise the other $1.5. And it's not easy to raise $1.5 million to restore some pillars of a building that had got concrete cancer. I had a friend, Peter Derham, Sir Peter Derham, and Peter Derham was a marvellous fundraiser. I asked Peter, would he chair a fundraising committee to raise $1.5 million. So we raised the money. We had drawn up plans with the help of some consultants as to what could be done now with this area on which we'd spent $3 million. And we gave it the name of the Galleries of Remembrance. In the galleries, there'd be areas which would show people how the armed forces and the civilians lived in times of war. That was the reason why we wanted to have within the shrine, but apart from it, something that showed the people what they were coming up to remember. People who had no association with either of the armed forces in any way at all would come see what their forebears went through, how their families lived, and then they would say, yes, we know what the shrines remember. Then they would come up to the shrine probably and go round it, and then they would understand